The legendary Mr. Skin.
Dude, Mr. Skin.
MrSkin.com. Skin, everybody.
Coast to coast from Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York, it's the Mr. Skin Podcast with your hosts Mr. Skin, Jimmy Fela, and Andrea Lowell. We want to hear from you. Call the show and leave us a voicemail at 484-SKIN-POD. Find all things Mr. Skin Podcast online at MrSkinPodcast.com.
Episode number 17 of the world-famous, internationally renowned Mr. Skin Podcast. I am Jimmy Fela, getting ready to kick off a special Halloween edition of the Skin Pod. Joining me now from Los Angeles, as she always does, the great Andrea Lowell. Happy Halloween, champ.
Happy Halloween. Nice to talk to you. I
got to tell you, Lowell, it's weird in New York because you really can't tell who's celebrating Halloween and who's just a weirdo. You know what I mean? You just don't know.
I had a similar experience last night. I was in Santa Monica, and I was like, are these homeless people or people dressing up from, like, the Thriller music video?
Yeah, I
really wasn't sure myself.
Yeah, and joining us, the authority on all such things, joining us from Chicago, of course, the man of the hour, Mr. Skin. Hello, Skin.
Hey, Skin.
Hey, Jimmy and Andrea. Hey, Jimmy, in Chicago, everyone's dressed like a fucking Cub fan.
Yeah, did you say they're dressed like a suicidal Cubs fan? Is that what you said?
We'll see.
It's a rough time. But yeah, I was going to ask you about that phenomenon, Skin. There's got to be certain costumes. You know how everybody's obsessed with, like, offensive costumes? Forget that.
Yeah.
We don't get into that. But there's got to be other costumes that are banned just because we don't know the difference between is it Halloween or every day. Like, I don't think you should be allowed to be a mariachi band for Halloween, not because it's offensive, but because I've never ridden the one train without seeing a mariachi band. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't want to go up to someone in their Halloween costume and hand them $1 and then get hit in the head by a trumpet because I just insulted somebody.
It could happen.
You just don't know. But it's nice to hear everybody's voice. We're getting the band back together.
Yay!
Yeah, 2 weeks without you, man. It's been tough.
But the ratings went through the roof.
Well, what can we say?
The good news, the last 2 episodes are highest rated. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Than ever.
But no, it is. It's a big difference. It was fun to do it with just Andrew, but with the team of 3, I feel like we got the full team.
You guys,
absolutely, it's a trifecta, Booze.
Well, to get the audience up to speed, what happened was my wife had to get her appendix out 2 weeks ago,
which is crazy, and she's okay.
She's okay, unfortunately. And the doctor said she's going to be fine. Ew. I'm like, whose side are you on here? The guy was like smiling when he told me. But no, Jenny Fela alive and well. She's doing good. And
she had an appendix, right?
Yeah, she had an appendix. And then last week
I was ruptured.
Last week I was stuck on Fox covering this wonderful election, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait for that to be done.
Can I tell you, like, as a comic, like, it's gotten to the point now where you can bring it up and you can be funny doing it, but you have to pay a toll of like 2 minutes of everyone goes stone silent till they hear the point you're trying to make. Like your setup, when you say like, all right, you get into the election, you have lost everyone's goodwill. You've lost the goodwill of the entire room. And then you can bring it back around. But it's kind of like a fool's errand at this point, is what I would say. But it's Halloween. Let's not worry ourselves about such trivial things like the future of our country. It's Halloween, damn it!
I know, right? Yeah. Let's talk about skanky costumes and candy.
Jimmy, in New York, in those busy streets, you guys do the kids out there, and then you walking behind them with a red Solo cup loaded with some booze, or what?
About that, I'm trying to figure out because I am going on a group trick or treat.
You got to do a travel mug.
Well, you know what's funny? It is just the group trick or treat as a whole. Because I grew up with like Halloween was a thing. It was a mission. Oh, yeah. Like you left the house at the crack of dawn. You might wind up in another state if you heard somebody was giving away full-size Snickers bars.
Absolutely. You travel for the full size.
Yeah, I've been to like Delaware on a Halloween. I mean, I was also like 200 pounds in 3rd grade, and that might be why. But the point is, Skin, you're right. Halloween now, it's like a very controlled experience. It's a group of 35 parents, their pets, you know what I mean? And then a group of like 40 kids. Yeah. So yes, I will be doing that. But what I was trying to figure out, Skin, is what is the proper protocol? Because I do know that parents drink on these things. But I wanted to get feedback from both of you in terms of what my approach should be, because I had another parent say that he'd get me high, which I might find to be really funny.
No,
it's
do
kinda,
that.
It's kind of not my thing. So I might really get a kick, but what I'm afraid of, Andrea, is that I'll miss the whole experience because I'll be off in Thailand.
No, you won't. All you got to do is have a little bit. Are you planning on smoking or taking an edible?
Oh, no.
You know I'm the expert on all drugs.
Hold on a second. He's talking about heroin. Dummy.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding.
Well then you might want to skip that one.
Do they have edible heroin?
I don't think they do. I'm sure you could eat it.
Yeah, they do. They do. It's called White Castle. But
you're talking about pot, yeah?
They were offering me weed, and I guess you'd smoke it ostensibly, but I don't know, Andrea, if I will miss the if you get drunk, you just get a little loopy and silly. But if you get weed, sometimes your brain just goes to another zone.
You go straight to paranoia. You're in bad trip mode. Yeah, I know all about it. Now, the trick is to just take a micro hit.
Okay.
I'm talking a little tiny bit. Because if you lean towards paranoia, just have a little tiny bit to just kind of change your perspective and everything be funny. And if you want more, then have more. But never take like a monster hit because then you might for sure get paranoia.
Because this is the gamble, Skin, and I need you to weigh in here. I'm taking my dog. I'm taking Bixby, the beagle. And,
does he get tired? How big is he?
He's decent. He's up for this, though. He's into this.
Okay, because I gotta say, you don't want the dog bringing you down.
No.
You're dragging him down the street.
This is my concern.
Right?
If you get me high and hand me an animal,
right.
I'm good. Like I'm gonna miss. I'm not talking to the kids. I'm not even checking out the moms.
Right.
I'm just petting this fucking dog. You know what I mean? So it's a tough gamble. Maybe by the end of the show today, as we work our way through pop culture and celebrity nudity, maybe the truth will reveal itself.
I think so. I mean, my suggestion would be take a little bit of mushrooms and have like a whole experience.
Hold on. Can we just back it off a second here? She's like, what you got to do is human trafficking. You've got to get into human trafficking. One of the people to leave the country. I'm like, what's going on here, Lowell? God.
Buy a large container for the weekend. No.
I leave the show for 2 weeks. We're now gun running to Nicaragua. I don't know what happened on the show. But Skin, can I ask you this? Because it is Halloween and that's a festive thing. Is Halloween offsetting the mood in Chicago about the Cubs? What is the mood in Chicago? Because last night, it was uplifting. You won the game. Series isn't over. It's just not looking great. What's the mood?
Well, it was funny. Before that game, I saw that the ticket prices went way down for Game 5 because everyone thought they didn't want to be there when they got knocked out. Now, all of a sudden, there's excitement again and hope. So we'll see. That Cleveland's a good team, but this could go to the 7th game. I can't even imagine what Chicago would be like if this went to Game 7.
Oh, and they actually won it,
Well, let's not get carried away.
You know what's funny, though? Within the World Series, how obviously the Cubs are the sentimental favorite. But I love how dismissive people are of Cleveland. They're like, screw them. They just won 71 years ago. It's not exactly like Titletown, USA. If Cleveland was playing anybody but the Cubs, this would be like the feel-good story of the century. And we'd all be talking about the movie Major League and how this whole miracle
they haven't won it since 1948. So there's that one person in that stadium that remembers 1948, right? There might be a few old guys, but every one of their fan base is dying to see it just as much as the Cubs are. Yeah. So we'll see.
Literally dying.
Hey, wait, I wanted to, so I'll be trick-or-treating, I'll be drinking, I'm doing the same thing you are, Jimmy, but I saw on your Facebook page that you were with Gary from the Howard Stern Show. You wrote some stuff. Could you tell me about it? Because I love Gary. Gary's been, for 16 or so years I've known him, and all the times I go into the show, he always comes in the green room and we shoot the breeze, and I've been out to dinner with him a few times. Really good guy. I really like Gary, and I was just wondering what your experience was and how that went this week.
Huge dick. No, I'm kidding. He's great. What an asshole. No, I got to tell you, the thing about him is I've written for this TV show that I do. It's Gotham Comedy Live. It's on Access TV. I've done, I've appeared on the show a bunch. Sometimes I'll help out and write the celebrity joke monologue, like if they're not bringing in a comic. So if you remember, we had this talk about William Shatner and Pamela Anderson and stuff like that. Right. Basically, I sat down and I was working with Gary on his stand-up act for the week, for the episode of the TV show he was going to host. He really is, Skin, in my experience, like everybody likes to compliment a celebrity by calling them down to earth.
Right.
But he is the most, it's cliche, but he is the most down-to-earth human being you could ever meet.
That's good to know.
Considering what he interacts with on a daily basis, you know what I mean, and what goes on, and the exposure, and the security clearances he has. I mean, he's on the biggest radio show in the world. He was cool as shit. Like he's cooler than he has to be. You know what I mean?
Which is great, because that shows he just has a really good character and he doesn't let it go to his head. It's awesome.
No, he's a dude. I was talking to him within a minute of meeting him, like, you'd talk to anybody you knew your whole life. We're talking about sports and just making dumb jokes and talking about music and stuff. And cool as hell. And he killed on the show, Skin. Like, he did. He actually got up there. And it's funny, but Gary is a guy who, if you've ever been around him, he wants to do things right. You know what I mean? He cares.
Yeah.
He is a guy who he cares. And it's why he's great at his job. He gives a shit. And I could tell that, he wanted it to go good naturally. But he really got up there and immediately, like he might have been nervous a minute before the show. He was not nervous on stage. Like, I know if you watch comics, when they're nervous, that they're feeling out the room. He got on stage, he heard hello, and he turned into, I was calling him Def Jam Delabate. He had like swag. He was like pacing, waving his hands around.
Do they have for that? Are there cue card, or is there like some sort of teleprompter cue card, or is he just have to memorize his stuff?
You could have one if you wanted it.
Right.
Like there were celebrities that I've seen use it. I wouldn't dish on who, I guess wouldn't be the right thing to say.
Right.
But he was so rehearsed. I think if you gave him something like that, it wouldn't have even helped him. He was
he already had it. Yeah.
How long was his time up on stage?
Probably like 10 minutes. Like, legit,
wow,
like,
that's good.
He pushed around the room really good, and then he has to bring up 4 more comics and do a joke in between.
Cool.
And he did a great job. He was actually cool. He was everything is funny, Skin. He's everything he's described to be. Everybody who meets him is like, oh no, he's the coolest guy. Like, he's the one you want to meet him. He's cool. He is exactly that. He was cool. And the only thing that I would describe as a negative is that he's a Met fan. I mean, you can't. Why is anybody doing that? Like, why is that? How is that still a thing? Nah, but he was an adorable guy. So shout out to the entire Bowie Nation. And you know what, Skin, is funny? I didn't think to bring up the mutual friendship because
you should have.
It's a weird thing. This is what I do because I have a way of like, I don't want to weird people out. Like when you're like, you're just trying to write them some jokes and be cool and get things going. And there always hits a point when the gig is done and now you're just like pals for a few hours.
Right.
Where those windows then present themselves. But if you're not thinking about it, you just miss it. Like, I had meant the whole week to be like, Skin. I had meant to do it the whole fucking week. And then last night,
cross paths again.
Yeah,
meet him again.
Yeah. No question.
Well, I always, like, if I hear Howard talking, like, I remember when Emilia Clarke did a nude scene in, was it last season? And
Game of Thrones.
There was questions because she had said that, she wasn't going to do any nude scenes. And because at the end of this previous season, when Lena Headey did the Walk of Shame, they had it CGI. So there were a lot of rumors that wasn't her. And I heard Howard talking about it saying, geez, I hope that was her because that was a great nude scene. So I emailed Gary and I sent him this little thing that we did at our website to prove by looking at old nude scenes and juxtaposing it over her current nude scene that, it was her. And look at, we did this whole scientific thing. I just sent that to Gary. Gary got it to Howard and boom, boom, it was on the air. So I'm always like sending him little things like that when I know it'll help the show in some way, shape, or form. And he always gets it on the air. It's really cool.
Awesome.
He's a badass. Yeah, shout out to him. He's one of us, as they say. Like, he's managed to become a huge celebrity, but still be one of us, which is like,
he's totally a normal guy. Every time I talk to him, I'm talking about his kids and, the shit you got to deal with at home. So he's really cool. I wanted to tell you also, I was, Andrea, I didn't get to see you while I was out there. I did try to, but I was in LA this week. I had a fun week because we talked about it on the air last week, but Friday night on Showtime was a documentary, Jimmy, X-Rated 2, The Greatest Adult Stars of All Time, which I happened to host. I filmed it this summer for my friend Paul Fishbein, who produced it. And he used to own AVN. And this is a second documentary for Showtime. The first one, by the way, killed. And anyway, it was so cool. They asked me to host it. I couldn't believe Showtime said yes, but they allowed me to host it.
It's incredible.
And it aired Friday night on Showtime. So I went out there Wednesday they did a premiere at some theater out in LA. So I went there and there was like a ton of porn stars there, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
So I was, hanging with porn stars. But then the next day I went to Andrea's place of business over at Playboy. And it's funny because we filmed 2 TV shows for Playboy that'll air around Christmas time on Playboy television. That are Mr. Skin television shows, a best of just two cool shows you'll see sometime around Christmas. But it was funny because the place I was getting, they had a makeup girl for me, and then I had to change into these different outfits. I'd see like Andrea's picture because it was right outside the old studio you used to work in.
Yeah.
So it is. Andrea's pictures are all over the wall at the Playboy office. So that was cool. Yeah, I was hoping it was the one day she wasn't. She wasn't working.
I'm not at
no,
work.
but it was cool. I said, don't come into work just because I'm hanging out there. I said if I was there, I'd love to see you. But anyway, yes, I was at Andrea's stomping grounds. So
very cool.
Skin, you're making the rounds, man. You're making the rounds.
I can't believe it. Yeah, I'm sitting there going, how the hell am I on a fucking Showtime? How did that happen? But yeah, it was cool. It's
you're just on everything.
Hey, let me tell you, when you host a show about porn on a Friday night and your wife is watching it with you, sometimes good things happen halfway through the show. You know what I'm saying?
I always tell this to couples, watch stuff like this together, because even if your intention is not to be turned on, when you watch sexy shows, you will start doing sexy things. So guys listening, don't feel like you have to watch anything sexy by yourself. Your woman's not going to be put off by it. If anything, you'll get a handy. I mean, so go for the gold.
You never know. Right. You never know.
No, you know what? That is true, because
viewing for two.
Jimmy, you know this as much as you might dabble in porn on your spare time. Your wife's not doing it. So when you're, it's funny when I watch this stuff with my wife, which doesn't happen a lot, and she's watching, on Showtime, so they can't quite show what you'd see online.
Right.
But she gets really into it because she's not like us. Like we see it for 45 minutes a day. If you add up the 8 5-minute segments I could do in my spare time.
Oh,
so anyway,
8 times a day,
great.
Skin?
Well, no, I'm saying 8 times where I watch 5 minutes adds up to 45
Skin,
minutes.
I'm a ninja. I don't roll like that. I find, you find what you described, a 5-minute and 18-second thing. You know what I mean? I may jump through 2 or 3 of those, but I'd say the entirety of the session can fit in 10 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not making Scorsese films where he goes on for 3 hours.
I always think it's weird with dudes that watch whole porn movies.
Dude, I don't get it
from
either.
Start to finish. Who the hell watches a whole porn movie? And I've seen them all.
They have
but I've never sat and watched a whole porn movie.
I can't get through one.
Doctors have a term for that. It's called unemployment.
Yeah,
you just have time. You just have the time on your hands. But that is amazing. And I will say this, because you mentioned the idea of watching with your wife and how it does, sometimes lead into transgressions. Right. It really is. That is the great elixir. People say it's weed, but it's not weed. It's getting people around the atmosphere of either discussing it, seeing it, or hearing about it.
Yeah, you want to emulate it. You want to show that, hey, I can do that too. Oh, or it just turns you on.
Well, this is the thing. Well, you need to be there. It's like catching cats. Like, this is how it works. If you're trying to catch a cat, if you're actually trying to catch a cat, like say a stray cat, you couldn't do it. You could never be fast enough or even hold on to the cat if it freaked out and started clawing. But if you were willing to just sit still on the stoop of your house, at some point the cat will come up to you. And just bump into you and lean on you and have to know what's going on.
And it starts rubbing on you and grinding on you.
So the trick is, I'm telling you, it's just
grab him by the pussy.
That's it. Long story short. Long story short.
So one last quick thing because there's a ton of TV nudity to get into, but I got to say this is the best thing that could happen to me from doing this television show. 2 different guys in my hometown caught me at the coffee shop over the weekend and said, "Hey, thanks for hosting this," because the wife and I watched it together. And I got some great action. 2 separate guys.
Wow. So that's awesome.
That if nothing else, it was worth it just for that. I helped some of the guys in my town to get laid.
That's
great.
Yeah, that's the Johnny Appleseed.
Yeah, look at your service to humanity.
I'm Johnny Seed.
Ooh.
That's funny. The Johnny Seed. That's funny.
Right.
See, it's like the show never took a week off.
Of course not.
Oh my God. We had to catch up. But so much television nudity to get to.
Let's talk about it. Let's hit it, Skin.
Yeah, well, let's hit some skins, because last night was, I would have to say, last night on cable television. And by the way, one of the reasons that we tape this show on Mondays is because it's hot off the press with incredible television nudity. And I think last night you had the Cub game on. They had the Dallas-Philadelphia football game on. So I don't know if a lot of people know about what happened, because a lot of this stuff was probably TiVo'd, and they'll get to it later.
Okay.
But as an example, so Masters of Sex, which is one of my favorite shows. Andrea, we talk about this a lot, but it's a Showtime show. They're in their 4th season, their 8th episode. Last night, Lizzy Caplan, and they were 7 episodes in, and Lizzy Caplan, who did tons of nudity in the first 3 episodes, hadn't done a nude scene yet. Whoa. I was like, come on, something's wrong here. And I was getting nervous. Like, is she going Sarah Jessica Parker on us and is not going to be naked? But last night it was cool because her and Michael Sheen traveled to Topeka to investigate a real rival clinic, and they donned some disguises, and then they went in just to see how these other Master and Johnson clones were doing.
We're testing people.
Their research. Yeah, they were testing it, and to do so, she put on a blonde wig and he had a mustache, and they totally disguised themselves and went in, had sex, and were observed by the other team. So it was a really kind of cool so it reminded me, Lizzy Caplan with the blonde wig was hot, and I'm a big fan of this. And I remember one of my favorite All in the Family episodes when I was a kid was when Meathead and Gloria put on a black wig, and Mike went nuts because it was like, it's almost like he got to cheat on his wife without cheating on his wife.
Exactly. That's the beauty of wigs. The beauty of wigs. And ladies listening, invest in a couple, because you can literally be a completely different person without the cheesiness of role play just by putting a pretty wig on.
That's it.
Yes.
And you maybe wear maybe a shoe that you're not used to seeing her in.
Yes.
You put the wig on and all of a sudden forget about
Absolutely.
it. So
wow.
I really dug this Lizzy Caplan toplessness last night because she was in a blonde wig. And
I am too.
Anyway,
yeah. And what a great shot of her abs with her boobs right there bouncing. I mean, her body's looking incredible this season.
Yeah,
absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And how about that guy, huh? Did you see that?
Yeah.
What a stud.
What a
it's the 60s, and Michael Sheen was dressed as like he did a fake mustache and everything. So anyway, but like I said, I'm a big fan of the fake the wig, and I thought that was awesome last night. But I also wanted to talk about Shameless last night, and it's they're in their 7th season. It was the 5th episode, and there was another star, Emmy Rossum, who had yet to do a nude scene this season. And I was thinking, oh my God, is Emmy Rossum not going to be naked? This would be terrible. But then last night she
brought it hard, baby.
She showed up last night.
She hooked up. I don't know, Andrew, did you see last night's episode?
I didn't see the episode, but I obviously have access to the links that you put on MrSkinPodcast.com, and out of this world. Because our concern last week was, she really nailed it as a director, getting the hot nudity and the wet t-shirt scene. Is she going to do any more herself? That was our fear. And I think our fears have been put to rest. She not only had great nude scenes, but amazing sex scenes. She's
this
fearless,
is gangster.
dude.
She hooked up with this. Yeah, she hooks up with this guy from Tinder, played by Joel Steinberg, and he's like a financial dude, and she's like getting financial advice while he's banging her. And I gotta say, Emmy Rossum,
she brings it.
She brings it. She doesn't just do nude scenes. She does, like, there's been some scenes where she's been laying on her back and the guy's got his face right in her muff, eating her out. And it's intense. Like, she doesn't screw around. She
takes every position too. And a lot of actresses don't do that because they're concerned about their body, or, shoot me with shadows, or do this or that. She's like, shoot me however, throw me around. I'll be on top. You can throw me against a dresser. You can put me in doggy. Like, she is fearless.
Well, this shot here in the montage that's on the website looks real. Like, just because of how relentless it is.
Yes.
Because this is gangster. The only like especially the one, because it's all right. The way it's cutting is there's one where she's on top, and there's one where I don't know. It looks like he's throwing her across the desk or whatever, and she's sitting upright. That looks real. Like, you know why it looks real?
It looks like he's really fucking.
Yeah, because you can see the point of contact without seeing the point of contact. What I mean by that is when she's sitting upright on the desk, right? And they're going at it, you can actually see like her body and her shoulders like absorbing shock. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's legit, man.
They're going through real motion.
You mean their genitalia is synced up perfectly? Is what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it almost
they're smashing it for sure. Yeah. There's just they got to have like genital protectors on or something.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Pussy patches, pussy patches, and socks are the go-to. Socks and tape and pussy patches, which are basically like a huge Band-Aid for your. It's like a big Band-Aid for your cooch. Yeah.
So that your juices aren't touching each other.
Okay. But let me ask you a question.
Keeps things clean.
So I've done it. So does he have to wear like a sock or something? Like, how does that work?
It depends. Because it's his preference, and the wardrobe person kind of come to this conclusion. There's some people that do like a nylon compression thing, almost like a thick pantyhose. There's people that do a sock and tape. But usually it comes down to his comfortable, what's comfortable for him to perform the scene. Also going to be, visually
I didn't know this.
Impairing. Mm-hmm.
This to me is like when you find out how they photograph food on television.
Yeah.
And you find out that like milk is like Elmer's glue and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys, thanks for ruining Christmas, Lowell.
Well, no, because
everything was going. I'm kidding. I know
they're actually what you're saying is true. They're going through the motions. There's just not insertion. So you're absolutely correct. They're probably smashing genitals like right now in this scene. It's just
I would think there had to have been some accidents where guys get their balls squished and stuff.
Because you know what it makes me think though. That's tragic. But you know what this makes me think though is probably that. Okay, so let's assume this isn't a real hookup. But there's probably something about going through this unbridled emotional exchange with someone that makes them wind up having real sex like an hour after they get off set. No.
Andrew, you could talk.
Okay,
on this
I don't
subject.
know. No, I was wondering.
Well, I've never had a sex scene with anyone as hot as this guy. I always get the awkward weirdos. So I don't know. Yeah. It's usually just like straight work. It's kind of like you just want to do a really good job for the 2 takes you have to do it, so you don't have to do it again.
Okay. So
but you really don't get turned on, in my opinion. But I can't speak for the male perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I could see myself being able to professionally do this at the age of 39. Probably not like 21. Forget, good God.
God, could you imagine?
Just
21. Oh, I can't even imagine. Hey, one other thing from last night's Shameless I wanted to point out is that Ruby Modine, Matthew Modine's daughter, did another nude scene right at the beginning where she gets out of bed with lip. And, when I was looking at her, I said to the guys in content when I was watching the scene this morning, I said, hey, could you check Matthew Modine's wife? She has to be Hispanic because this girl has there's an exotic
look.
Yeah, exactly. I think she's really beautiful. And sure enough, Matthew Modine's been married to a Hispanic woman since like 1980 or I don't know, for a long, long time.
Okay.
So anyway, yes, Ruby Modine is Hispanic. So we even changed her ethnicity on the website after that finding. So very exciting.
And it looks like we'll be able to see more of her naked because it seems like her and Lip are going to have some sort of ongoing sexual relationship this season. So that's cool.
He won't be the only Lip we see this year.
There it is.
We can have our fingers crossed for that.
So anyway, but the big news from last night, and like I said, it was a spectacular night for television nudity, was Westworld. And we are sending a mailer out, guys, to our 200,000 mail list with the quote from me that this Westworld last night, the greatest orgy scene in the history of television.
I love a good orgy scene, dude.
Oh my God.
That turns me on to watch.
First of all, I was looking, we have a playlist at our website of the greatest orgy scenes of all time, and most of them are from movies. You got like Short Bus, Happy Hooker, Eyes Wide Shut, all these great, scenes. But television, if you think about it, it's happened before.
Like Game of Thrones on a small scale.
Yeah.
Rome, remember that show on HBO, Rome? Narcos from Netflix.
Plus, who's the boss?
Who's the boss?
That great one on Family
that was
Ties.
Awesome. But so number one, you don't get a lot of orgy action on television. I don't know if it's a budget thing. They did on Westworld last night. I think I read they had over 50 extras, all naked. They paid him, from what I read, they paid him up to $600 to be, because this wasn't just like a fleeting thing. I mean, you're standing there completely naked. There were so many fully nude people, men and women, and it was funny because we noticed before Westworld even aired, there was this I forget where it was, but there was an ad in Maddie, do you remember where that ad showed up somewhere?
I think it was on Hollywood Reporter or something like that.
Yeah, it was somewhere where we read this thing and we posted it in one of our blogs where there was an advertisement for people that wanted to be extras on Westworld. And it said that the quotes, some of the things I remember pulling out was like, background players or extras had to sign consent forms agreeing to genital touching and posing on all fours while others who are fully nude ride on your back.
What?
Now, this was out there in the trades for these extras for Westworld. So before this show even aired, we're like, holy shit, this is going to be a good show. And we're wondering, like, when the hell is the genital touching going to happen?
Well, posted?
Last night, this orgy scene, and we timed it. I think it was over 5 minutes, the whole thing, because it's William and Logan. If you watch the show, they're the two guys. They're kind of touring the I don't know what you call it, the whatever Westworld is they stumble on this town called Pariah, and they're invited to this sexy party, and it literally, when the second you see it, it'll remind you of the scene in Eyes Wide Shut.
Absolutely.
The way it's just designed, and it's like, so this is like a fantasy. It's like Fantasy Island for adults. Is basically what Westworld is.
Are they robots? Are they supposed to be robots? Though?
Yeah. They're a lot of the people at the orgy were, but then these people, William and Logan and Evan Rachel Wood, walk in. Evan Rachel Wood's a host, but William and Logan are visitors. And it's just, and if you think about it, if this could exist where you could have lifelike robots that you couldn't tell the difference between if you were a human or a robot.
Dude,
you're not just gonna make out with someone and have missionary sex with one robot. I mean, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna have you're gonna have everything you could never do in the real world, and that's what's going on. They're just, these guys are going bananas, and then the developers of it came up with this town Pariah that's like, just looks like it's like Caligula, it's like that type of thing. So
this is very
I am
sexy.
really looking forward to the rest of Westworld. Did Maddie D, did you put up some pictures of the orgies for these guys?
I'm watching the orgies.
Oh, are you good? Okay,
geez,
so you guys are watching.
I'm getting, honestly, this is something, again, watch with your wife. She will get turned on. We'll spark some ideas, because
that's funny.
It's not over the top enough that she'd be insulted. It's just really sexy and beautifully shot, something a woman's sensibilities could appreciate. So if you want to plant those 3-way or orgy seeds, this would be a good episode to check out as a couple. It's amazing.
Yeah, and like I said, it goes on for quite some time.
Hot.
It's not like it's not a fleeting thing that you just see a maze of people and then you're done. And it continues as they're walking through the different hallways. So there's a ton of people, and they're all, of course, they didn't get everyone there is good looking, and there's, you know what I'm saying? There's there's no twos. There's no twos bopping around this thing. Yeah. and I don't even think, I don't even know if, Maddie D did put it up good. By the way, on top of the greatest orgy in the history of television, which aired on Westworld last night, they also did full nudity from Tandy Newton, who plays the beautiful black girl that runs the brothel, and then Evan Rachel Wood, who's the star of the show, while she's being examined in the lab by Anthony Hopkins. And my God, was it a great night for Westworld, and Shameless and Masters of Sex, and just a top night for nudity on television.
I mean, This is incredible nudity. I mean, amazing, mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting better.
So anyway, that was television last night, but there was some other stuff I wanted to talk to you guys about. One is Jimmy, and I'm wondering if you know who Minka Kelly is.
Of course,
right?
she used to date Derek Jeter.
Yes, right.
That's her.
Fantastic.
And she used to be on Friday Night Lights. That's another way that people know Minka Kelly, and she is ridiculously gorgeous.
She is gorgeous.
I was looking into her today because I needed to talk to her because I have some breaking nudes for you guys. But I didn't realize that her dad, if you're a fan of, I think it was it Aerosmith? Her dad, in 1981, I guess, was Brad Whitford, a guitarist for Aerosmith. Does that sound right? He left the band, and this Rick Duffy took over as the rhythm guitarist in 1981 for Aerosmith. It's his daughter. That's Minka Kelly.
Really?
Her mom was an exotic dancer, and her dad was a guitarist in Aerosmith. So of course she's gorgeous, right?
I love that story.
She's
that means she's
beautiful.
fun. And that means she's fun. If her mom was an exotic dancer and her dad's in a band.
Yeah, she's open-minded as all hell.
So she plays Lila on Friday Night Lights, and that's where everyone falls in love with her. And I have to say, over the last 10 years, she has to be one of the most requested actresses I get that hadn't done a nude scene. But the good news is there's a movie out. This week on Blu-ray called Papa Hemingway in Cuba, and it's, I guess, Ernest Hemingway in the late 50s was hanging out in Cuba, and he befriended a journalist who's played by Giovanni Ribisi in this. And so Ribisi go skinny dipping with Minka Kelly, and they do a cool. I'm a big fan of this, where you you're at like at the ocean and you undress and you run towards the ocean. The camera follows you from behind.
Yeah,
Minka
the
Kelly
strip down to the skinny dip.
Yeah, it's a winner.
Yeah. So the movie's called Papa, Hemingway in Cuba, and you will pop a boner watching this because it's fantastic. And Minka Kelly from behind is
perfect,
as good as it gets.
She's as good as she is from the front.
Average. She had never done a nude scene before. This is her nude debut, and I'm always excited to share a nude debut with you. And Minka Kelly's gorgeous.
And they have like a really nice tan line on her too. Like it's very subtle, but on her cheeks.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like there's a subtle tan line. Now, this is a winning shot, Skin.
Well, Jimmy, the bun also rises when you watch that. Yeah. So, yeah, it's we could make a lot of Hemingway jokes for her naked, but trust me, this is one of my definitely top nude scenes of the year, one of my top ones, and we've been waiting forever. Minka Kelly did not disappoint, and it happens 24 minutes in the Papa Hemingway in Cuba, a new Blu-ray that's out, and I wanted to share it with you guys because it's big news at MrSkin.com.
Good looking out, because that was a great new debut from her. I'm very pleased with that shot. So thank you, Mr. Skin.
Well, one other thing, we were trying to figure out a funny story. So I guess we kept saying on the show that we had this line you could call in. And we're getting a ton of people listening to our podcast, but we weren't getting phone calls we were getting them sporadically, not as many as we thought. We couldn't figure out why, but then we realized that our phone number was one digit too long, and people that call on cell phones, you can't do it if it's got to be the exact, I guess 7 digits. Is that it, Manny?
Yeah.
So anyway, we have a new phone number, and we actually have a voicemail from someone that wants to ask me a question, but our new phone number, if you want to call in and ask a question, or if there's somebody you want me to talk about, it's 484 Skin Pod, 484 Skin Pod. So that's our official number. It'll work on cell phones. We just didn't realize it. And who's calling from a freaking rotary phone these days? So it's like everybody with a cell phone couldn't call into our show, but we did get somehow. We've had a couple people that called in, but this guy left us a message, and luckily this guy has a rotary phone and he could call in. So.
Cool.
Hey, Mr. Skin. Hey, Andrea. This is Chris from Massachusetts.
Hi.
I got a question. I wanted to know if the new show MacGyver, there's a girl on there. She plays Riley. Her name's Tristan Mays or something, maybe like that. I was wondering if she has ever did any nude scenes in any movies. She's so hot. Her breasts are popping out of all the shirts she's wearing on those shows. Just wondering. Love the show.
I love passion.
Me too. Thanks for calling, Chris.
Love
so what do you say, Skin? Was he right about the name? Is it someone named Tristan Mays from the show MacGyver?
Yeah,
what's the deal?
Yeah, right. He knows her from MacGyver. I know she plays Riley on MacGyver, but we have her at the website. Now, the bad news is she has yet to do a nude scene, so I just wanted. But one of the things I always like to do is, maybe I don't have a nude scene, but let me give you the best thing that she's done to date. And she did she's on the TV series Vampire Diaries.
Okay.
And she's had some nice bra shots. It'll kind of tide you over until she does her first. Now, I want to caution you, because it's the Vampire Diaries, there is a scene with some blood on it, because I remember when we put this at the website, we have bra shots of Tristan Mays, but they're bloody bra shots. But it's still very, very hot. And if you want to at least see her in her underwear, we have Tristan Mays. It's from Vampire Diaries. So I know you could check that out at our website, but she's yet to do her first nude scene. A lot of people think she looks like a little like Jessica Alba. She's that hot.
Ooh,
so I understand. Yeah, and we have I know we have some MacGyver stuff too, but it's just, the guy was saying she's busting out, but it's like in a sports bra. So no nudity, but we have her best underwear stuff, so you can check that out.
Love it. You always have it all. What don't you have?
Yeah, but anyway, so sorry about that. We didn't realize that our phone number was one digit too long. So 484 Skin Pod. For future reference for anyone that wants to call into the show, and definitely do, because that's my favorite thing, is to answer viewer skin queries. So it's my favorite.
And we love
thing,
putting you on the spot, so it's perfect.
They did a good thing there.
I love it. Yeah. Hey, last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is, and you all remember the famous Tonya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan 1994 Olympics.
Who doesn't remember that? I mean, I was so young, and I remember it was such a big deal. It was all over the news. It was so shameful and so horrific and just a disgusting story, quite frankly.
I think the actual, if I'm not mistaken, the actual contest where Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan and whoever that other girl was that won it in 94, the ice skating was the highest rated event in the history of the Olympics.
Because of that controversy.
Because of that whole controversy. It was crazy. But the reason I bring it up is because we were talking about this in the office this morning, and I thought, hey, you guys should know this. Yeah. This is interesting. Margot Robbie is signed up to play in a movie called I, Tonya, about a movie about Tonya Harding. Now, I just think it's funny that, like, Tonya Harding, not to be confused with the most beautiful woman in the world, but Margot Robbie is one of the most beautiful women in the world. So from Tonya Harding's perspective, she has to feel pretty good about this, right?
Yeah, oh my God. Go ahead.
I kind of am hopeful about this a little bit. I agree with you. It's interesting casting because they don't look very similar. But Tonya Harding did do a sex tape in her life. So if Margot Robbie... If this script incorporates that sex tape, we might see Margot Robbie pulling an Emmy Rossum and doing some hardcore boning. Yeah, she'll look a lot better in that horrible white lingerie that Tonya Harding wore in her sex tape.
You know, I checked out today. I hadn't watched it in a while, but I went back.
I don't want to watch it
again. And I watched the Tonya Harding sex tape again.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah. Remember, it was her honeymoon.
Yes, it was
like her wedding night. It was like her wedding night because she's still in this. Is so like bad, but she was with remember that Jeff Galooly?
Yeah,
Jeff Galooly. And there's one scene where at the end she's like, it was called Tonya and Jeff's honeymoon, but she was actually, I think she. I don't know if it happened the night of her wedding but she literally had her wedding gown on at some point, but then it was taken off and then they have sex. But of course, their lighting was shitty and they didn't do it right. But I remember at the very end, she like jerks him off and he comes in her hand and she's like, so she's got his gululi in her hand. So she's like walking around with, trying to get to the bathroom, and it's not the greatest celebrity sex tape of all time, but because it's Tonya Harding, for a while there, it was a monster. Yeah, it was a novelty. Everyone had to see it. But anyway, I thought I'd let you guys know. So Margot Robbie's going to play Tonya Harding, and
Tanya's got to be happy about that.
Yeah, that's flattering. I was going to say that, Skin. That's kind of like overdressing for the gig. Yeah, like who should? I mean, if we were being fair about who should play Tonya Harding. She's probably turning tricks in a parking lot for truckers right now.
I really don't know what she's
a lot lizard.
No,
really?
I mean the person who should get the gig. I wasn't calling Tonya Harding a lot lizard. Yeah. I was saying though, there's probably a lot lizard out there that would play a very accurate Tonya Harding.
Yeah, man. Well,
do you remember? I don't know if you guys remember this, but in '94, right after the Olympics, well, I should say maybe it came out in the summer, but they did a made-for-TV movie called Tonya and Nancy.
Yep, I remember.
And I remember Alexandra Powers played Tonya, and then Heather Langenkamp, who was the girl in the bathtub in Nightmare on Elm Street, played Nancy Kerrigan, and she looked really similar to her and really looked great. And by the way, Alexandra Powers never did a nude scene, but Heather Langenkamp, the next year after Nightmare on Elm Street, was in a movie called Nickel Mountain and was topless with a guy. It should have been called Silver Dollar Mountain because she had this incredible rack. And anyway, but they did a Tonya and Nancy made-for-TV movie that was kind of a crappy movie,
cheesy.
But it did crazy ratings because there was still such an interest in their story. But so hopefully this movie will do well, and hopefully Margot Robbie, they'll reenact the wedding night video with Jeff Galooly. So we'll see.
Well, that's funny. We covered a lot today. What did we learn?
Sure did.
God.
What did we learn in closing? Yeah. I think I am going to drink after all of this for my big trick or treat.
I went and bought some pumpkin beer, Pumpkin at Southern Tier, and
sounds tasty.
I got the red Solo cup stacked up, ready to go. We'll,
I'm telling you guys, travel coffee mugs because it's very discreet. You're not going to draw attention of other, cops or attention that you might not want. That's my recommendation as a pro alcoholic here.
No, that's true, but I got to say that in my town is as long as you're minding your P's and Q's, they're not going to bother you too much.
Gotcha.
So, so then we have everyone coming back for pizza after, and I'm sure
you got it all figured out.
Well, at the Mr. Skin offices, they filled our little pumpkin things with Twix. I have already had 2 Twix before the show, so I'm ready to rock. I'm very, very excited. I had a little more energy than normal for the podcast today with the 2 Twix before the show. So
a lot of fun.
Anyway, great episode, guys. Great to have the team back.
What a treat.
And and we'll actually know the outcome of who the World Series winner is by next show.
Wow, that is
Monday,
so true. Next Monday, World
That's
Series
crazy.
winner, and it'll be Election Eve.
Wow.
Oh, that's right.
Oh my
It'll
God.
be the day before the election.
Oh my God!
Well,
and the day before Erection 2016, we'll announce the winners of that.
Go ahead, Andrea. Go ahead.
It's just going to be such a loaded show. I mean, we're going to have so much to talk about. It's exciting, actually.
We should talk about White House sex scandals. Not even scandals, but stories. Because it goes so far past Clinton and JFK. There's a lot of fun ones.
Oh, yeah.
I think
I could probably put a little something together for you, sir.
That's what I'm saying, Skin. I think we sit down. I think we should talk about the goings-on in the White House.
Yeah,
because
I might have something.
Let's talk about some real poll numbers. If you know what I'm saying.
My crack staff is on it.
Excellent.
Hey. Good work, everybody. Happy Halloween, huh?
Happy Halloween.
Yeah.
See you guys next week.
This concludes another scintillating episode of the Mr. Skin Podcast. Subscribe to the Mr. Skin Podcast in iTunes and never miss a show. Thanks for listening.